Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you to all my new subscribers and thank you for all your feedback regarding all my videos. It really is appreciated. It's actually Monday, so happy Monday. I just thought I would pop by following my shows on the craft store. So I've actually caught up now on my sleep, so I can actually speak now. I was so tired after the shows. But I just thought I'd pop by, and I don't want to forget my YouTube channel because some people only follow me on YouTube. They don't do Facebook, or they don't do Instagram, or they don't do the craft store. So I didn't want to forget my YouTube channel. Now, if you've already seen my stamp sets, now you can fast forward over the next few minutes while I show the stamp sets. And then I'm going to create a quick card. I've not prepped it. I just thought I'd pop along because on the craft store I said that I always follow up and create videos and that I keep inspiration flowing so that when you've purchased the stamps you've always got inspiration there for you. So I want to keep to my word. So what I thought I'd do first is actually show the stamp sets that were released at the weekend. So my stamp sets were released on Friday. And I'm going to begin with the A7 stamp sets. And we've got a butterfly theme here. And the reason I designed the A7 stamp sets is that if that's all you can afford, what I've tried to do is I've tried to incorporate in the A7 stamp sets is a focal image and background elements so that you can create cards and mixed media and journal pieces with two small stamps. They do pack a punch. There's a lot of detail in there. Now, I know you can see that clearly, but I think sometimes it's good to lift those up to camera just so that you can see the details. And in this one, it says variation in species. So you can actually cut that out and use that as a sentiment. And this is a perfect background element, and you can stamp the circles and the butterflies separately if you wish. Now, one is called Flutter and one is called Minutes in Flight. And that is my two A7 stamp sets. Now, I've actually got a workshop to create 10 cards and maybe a little book using my new release, the first part of my new release. And that workshop is actually in December. Can you believe we're actually in December? And it's actually called a Medley of Creativity Workshop, and it's workshop 61. And it's over 4 days, the 10th, 11th, 12th and 13th of December. It starts at 10 AM on each day, and it'll actually be available on Rewind. So once the video's been recorded, it'll be there if you can't watch live. And the workshop's actually £30. So if you want to join me, I'll leave my email address in the description. So what I've got next is my A6 stamp set, and I absolutely love this. It's actually called House of Butterflies, and it's meant to work together with every other design that I've got in this release. And we've got a lovely butterfly definition here. It's just my definition, and it says a nectar feeding insect with two pairs of large wings, one of the most colourful, vibrant insects. Could you tell then I couldn't read that little last word then? And what we've got here is we've got focal images, we've got two houses, and we've got sentiments, and we've got background elements. And they work beautifully with the A7 stamp sets as well, just so that you can see those. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a couple of the cards on Facebook, just so that you can see a couple of the samples. So we'll go to the workshop group, a Medley of Creativity, and I'm just going to find the artwork for you. She says, of course, it'll take ages just to find that. There we go. And in my workshop group is we've got some of the samples just so that you can see. And this is what we'll be creating in the workshop. I won't go through them all because obviously I will add them to Facebook, but these are some of the cards that you'll be creating actually in the workshop. So I just think it's important to give full details. So this also has Home is Where the Heart Is, and it also has this little butterfly here that you can create backgrounds with, and this little heart here as well, which actually has the word butterfly inside. So I love that stamp set. So that's my A6 stamp set. I'm not going to go through these in too much detail because I did do a Facebook Live, but I'm doing it because I don't want to forget my YouTube followers as well. Just think it's important to remember. Then we've got a border stamp set. This is called Endless Circles. And those that follow me know that I adore circles. I just love the balance. I love what they look like on projects. And what I've done with this one is we've got some prompts, which I thought were perfect for journal prompts. So round and round, no end, no beginning, sorry, no beginning, no end, circle of life, which I think is a perfect prompt. And it actually says endless here underneath this label, which you can't see. So if I hold the stamp set the right way, it actually says endless here. And this stamp set is so easy to use. It's just a pleasure to use. Now you can use the whole stamp or you can use little elements from it, which works perfectly. And you can even use the numbers separately and just cut them randomly so it looks like a random number, so that you've got those as well. And you've got bits of text and the alphabet here, just so that you can use those separately as well. And that's actually a border stamp. So trying to keep these in some kind of order because I am going to use a couple in the demonstration for the YouTube video. I've then got an A5 stamp set, and this is called Winged Fragments. And I just love this stamp set. I love this because it works with the border stamp set and it works with the previous ones as well. And this here is a vintage clock, and I just love how that's translated into the stamp. Here we've got a butterfly. The wings are made up of text, and it's actually got butterfly and wings inside there. And then we've got a tag, which you can actually stamp separately away from all this text if you wish. And then you can add your own design inside the tag image. And then we've got the butterfly and the numbers as well, which coordinates with all the others. And it's got the markings and colours of the butterfly as the text. And it's got fragile. So that's my A5 stamp set. We'll just place that back in, just so that we stay nice and tidy, which is just a first for Tracy. So that's one of my A5 stamp sets. Then we've got Follow Your Own Path. And I'm just so delighted with the way these have all turned out. So this is Follow Your Own Path. And at the top here, it's got the word toucan. And this is one of my favourite stamps, just because it can be used as a background element so easily. And I love the fact it's a little bit random as well. We've got Fly Free, Two Birds Never Sing the Same Song. We've got the chevrons, the toucan, a little kingfisher and a larger kingfisher. And I've really enjoyed using that one. The samples have turned out beautiful with those. Now, if you want to see me demonstrating, if you look up the craft store, www.thecraftstore.com, you can see my demonstrations on Rewind. If you go to Friday the 22nd and Saturday the 23rd, you will see my shows on there at 6 p.m, 8 p.m. on the 22nd, and on the Saturday the 23rd, you'll see them at 8 a.m, 12 midday and 4 p.m. And you can actually watch those on Rewind. And then that will give you some more ideas as well with the stamp set. So I'd also like to say a huge thank you to everybody that did join me on the shows and actually emailed in as well. I really do appreciate your support, and thank you to everybody who purchased. Thank you very much. And then my final design is called Elements of Nature. And this has got, oh, I just love this image, the sycamore key, or helicopter as we called them as a child. We've then got a rose hip. We've now got another circular element, which is in a different layout. So a circular element that combines with all the other designs as well. And then we've got a flower image, which I'll just pull the stamp set out just so that you can see that flower image is here. So it's quite, I've got some sisal there. It's actually quite a big image. Sorry about the glare, but that's quite a big image. So just so that you can see those, I just love the rose hip in that one. It just stamps beautifully. And what I'm going to do now I've given you a quick overview of the stamp sets. I didn't want to go into too much detail because, as I said, I've done them on the craft store. Our stockists have got them, and I have actually done a Facebook Live on Facebook. So I don't want to, you know, sort of wear you out by you just listening to the same thing over and over again. But as I said, if you've seen all this anyway, just fast forward this bit. So just fast forward for 10 minutes and then you'll be able to see the demonstration. So what am I going to demonstrate with? I think I may use that. I think I may use my A7 stamp set. So I think we'll use the A7 stamp set, which I can't get out the packaging, which is really good. So I think I'm going to use Minutes in Flight, which is this one. She says that and it changes every 2 minutes. And then I'll probably use this one. I'm not going to create a difficult card because let's be honest, I'm tired. After the weekend, it always wears me out. It must be my age. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my standard size card. So I'm using smooth white card, and it's 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. And what I've got is I've got a matte and layer in black card, which is 1/4 inch bigger. And then my card blank is 5 inches by 7 inches, just so that you know what I'm working with. Now, what I did was when I came upstairs, I thought I don't want to think about the colours too much, but I definitely want to use colours different from what I did in the shows, just because then it looks different. I think that's the important thing. So what I'm going to do is use Broken China and Crackling Campfire. What you need to be aware of is Crackling Campfire is quite a strong colour, so just be aware of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of the Crackling Campfire. I don't want to add too much because I can't take away, but I do want to add that nice strong colour. Perfect for this autumn season, but also sort of gives a rusty sort of feel to it as well. And what's hilarious is if you can hear a noise in the background, that's because we've actually got window cleaners have just arrived. And you can honestly, I can't plan it honestly. I actually planned to do it because I thought, oh, it's nice and quiet now. And then the window cleaner men arrive. You can always rely on it for my YouTube videos. Now, what I always recommend on the TV, I recommend that you dry everything naturally. Just because if you let it dry naturally, you get a stronger colour and you get a richer colour because you're not forcing that colour down into the card when you're heating it. However, when I'm demonstrating, it's very difficult to let things dry naturally, especially when you're doing something off the cuff. So obviously I can't let it dry naturally. So I'm just going to give that a little waft. I don't dry it too much because I just want to add the second colour. And on this occasion, you can add the two colours together, but on this occasion, I actually want to just layer them one on top of the other. I don't want them to sort of blend into each other. I want them to go on top of each other. So I'm just drying a little bit in between each layer. So just adding my blue, and I think that's enough blue. And then just give it a spritz with water. And then you see what I would recommend is then that you would then dry that naturally. You would then let that dry naturally. You wouldn't dry it with a heat tool. I haven't got that luxury, so I'm going to dry with a heat tool. Don't get me wrong, you still get a beautiful effect. It's just that if you let it dry naturally, it's just richer. The colour's got more depth. So one of these days I will show you a comparison of actually drying it with the heat tool and letting it dry naturally, because there is a big difference. So I've dried a little bit more, and then I'm going to add a little bit more of the rust. And can you see I'm hardly adding any colour. I'm just adding little bits. because I don't want to add too much, because I can just take my time and add a few layers at once. And it's up to you when you decide that that's enough for you. I don't want to cover all the areas. I want to leave some white space, just because the white space gives me a little bit of vibrancy. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a dry. So just take your time. And as I say, I'm not, you know, sort of totally know where I'm going. I'm just going with the flow and just seeing where that takes me. Just going with the flow. Now, let's just grab some kitchen roll. Now, if you let that dry naturally, these areas here will get quite dark. Move that out of the way. These areas here will get quite dark. But on this occasion, I'm going to dab them just so they don't get too dark. Just for this card, that's all. It's just for this card. Now, I'm quite happy with that background. Quite happy with that background. It's wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use... What am I going to use? Come on, Tracy. I'm going to use Bipasha's rose stencil. You can use any flower stencil that you wish. And the good thing is I can just reach over just to my drawer and pick up a piece of cut and dry foam. And I'm just going to use a piece of cut and dry foam. Now, do I want it that way? I think I'm going to have it that way. It doesn't have to go the way that the stencil's designed. It can go any way you wish. Now I can't make my mind up. Oh, do you know, I'm terrible. Let's go that way. So I'm going to take the broken china and I'm just going to take my cut and dry foam. And what I'm going to do is apply a good layer of ink to the cut and dry foam. Just make sure you add a good layer. If you add a good layer of ink, it stops that dragging. And what I want to do is just add just light layers of the colour. Just so that it's, you know, it's not too overpowering, but it's definitely in the background. Lift your stencil and then you can have a look. You see, and that's perfect for me. I don't need much more than that. And then spritz with water again. And just allow that to sit for a few moments. While that sits for a few moments, oops, let's just dry our work. Oh, crikey, I can't. It's because I've sprayed with water, so it's wet underneath, so it doesn't slide. There we go. So I'm just going to wipe my stencil, just so that when I come to use it next time, I don't get broken china ink. Just place that away. And then I'm just going to give this another dry. Just so that it's totally dry. And I'm actually trying to keep my desk tidy because I actually unpacked, which is a first for me. It normally takes me a few days to unpack, but I actually unpacked this time. So just make sure that's dry. A little bit of moisture there, and just straighten your card. Just give it a straighten, like so. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pine cone ink, and I'm going to use that stamp set that I said to you I'm always using all the time, which is this one. So it's on the Follow Your Dreams, Follow Your Own Path. See, I'm making up my own names now for my stamp sets. Follow Your Own Path. And on there is this little text stamp, this little one here. And it's got words like wing and feathers on there, and so it's perfect. So what I'm going to do is ink up with brown ink, with the pine cone ink. And I'm going to add some stamping. Let's pick that up because there's a bit of ink on the lid. So just add some stamping, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my time and add some random stamping. I love adding layers upon layers upon layers because you look through the text. I love looking through the text and you can actually see all the layers below. It makes me happy. So I'm just stamping this quite randomly. I'm not sort of too regimented about it. I'm just stamping it quite randomly. A little bit more text. I can't stop using this stamp. I'm going to drive you all mad. But just look at this in the background. Don't you just think that text looks lovely? It's just so random. And it says feather there. And it's got wing. So it's just perfect. Just love that. So that'll be one of those stamps that, yes, is used over and over again. So we're just going to place that on one side. So just put my lid on there. And then what I'm going to do is grab a scrap of card. Not that small scrap. Preferably a bigger scrap than I was picking up. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to just ink this up. This time I'll start with the broken china first, because this is going to be the piece of card that I stamp my butterfly on. So it doesn't mean to be too much of a perfect background, because you're going to stamp the butterfly on and it's just for background colour, so you're not going to see too much on there anyway. But even that on its own, just that blue, looks fantastic. I do love using these inks. I just find them fantastic. So just give that a dry. And I do tend to layer it when I want this effect, because it will blend a little bit if you do it wet on wet, and you'll get touches of like sort of green, which also adds to the rust effect. So that's quite good as well. I quite like that. So that we just need that for a background. So we're just creating a background for our butterfly. We'll just give that a really good dry, just to create that for our butterfly. Do you know, sometimes I love creating just a nice simple card that I can just do and go with the flow. Go where inspiration takes me without anything too challenging. You know, sometimes you wake up, you want to be creative, but you don't want anything too challenging. This for me works perfectly when I don't want anything too challenging. So I've got a nice piece of card there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my butterfly in the brown, which again, the pine cone. So I'm going to take that stamp. Now I can't make my mind up whether to just use the butterfly or in fact do the circle as well. So we'll just ink the whole thing up because Tracy can't make her mind up. And I'm not using an acrylic block. I'm just going to use it as is. And I can decide, let's do it that way. Then we get a bit of blue and a bit of the orange as well. So just pressing evenly over that stamp, which is easy. I'm not using an acrylic block, mainly because I only want a certain part of that stamp. So it's just not necessary to use an acrylic block. And you can just lift it up slightly, just see if you've missed any areas. There we go. Doesn't that look lovely? Just love that. Just getting a scrap of paper. We're just going to give that a little blot. I'm in love with this image. So just give that a little blot. I've actually got 2 pieces of paper here, but there you go. Scissors. Thank goodness I unpacked. Now I'm going to have to do the cutting out on this video because I've not done any prep, mainly because I just came on and just thought I would create something and not do any prep. It's very easy to cut out. I'm moving the card rather than my scissors. It's funny that this is a new pair of scissors, so they're quite stiff. I've always got these scissors. I've always got several pairs of these scissors just because I love using them. But it's funny because my others have loosened off. This pair feels a little bit stiff. So just going round. And it doesn't take long to cut out. It's not a difficult image to cut out. There we go. See, because what I'm thinking is this will be on one side here. You see, it could be on the right if you want, or it can be on the left. But I quite like that flow of text on that side there. So it might be on that side. Can't make my mind up, but there's nothing new there that I can't make my mind up. So what I'm going to do then is stamp on another piece of scrap paper. I always like using my little bits of scrap. Just think it's a good use of all your scrap pieces doing your stamping. So I'm just going to stamp that butterfly this time. Stamp that butterfly. We don't need the circle, just the butterfly on this occasion. Just to give me my 3D element. Looks lovely in the brown. So just want the butterfly this time. And don't need the antennae, so that's not a problem. You can cut the antennae out if you wish, but I don't need it on this occasion. And I definitely need to use these scissors a few more times just to loosen those off a little bit. I always find butterflies just such a pleasure and so easy to use. I just do. So I'm hoping when some of you get your stamps, I'm hoping you'll have a go at this and just tag me and let me know if you enjoyed creating. So then we've got that pop of brown, just so that that sort of works quite nicely. I haven't got my sisal here, so I'm just going to get my sisal. It will go quiet for a couple of seconds. And we're back because we've got the sisal. I like my sisal nest. I just like using it. So let me just think now. I don't want to place it down yet because I just want a little think. Just want to think about some strips of card. This is just where inspiration's taking me. Just a smaller piece. So I'm using my scraps of card and I'm just cutting little strips of card, which I'll show you. I'm not even thinking about it. I'll just show you what I'm thinking. So I'm getting up and down on the floor like the professional I am, and I'm thinking of just adding some strips of card, you know, for a pop of white. Just add, of course they're going to flip about every 2 minutes because I'm not stucking them down. And then what I'm thinking is, you see, that pop of white really works. So we're going to use those, definitely. So just grab my adhesive. Excuse me. So we'll just stick these down. So just cut random strips. So just any leftovers you've got. Got a needle somewhere. I always find, you know, when I've been at the craft store, because of the air conditioning, it sort of clogs my glues up. I never have a problem other than when I go to the craft store, because they've got the air conditioning on for the equipment. It's funny. I never have a problem until I've been there. So just adding this strip here, like so. I like adding the 3 strips just because I like those odd numbers. Just add this. And it's nice because it's just nice and relaxing. I like them at random lengths, not all the same length. That's entirely up to you if you want them the same length or not. I just like the random lengths. The random lengths just, I don't know, they're just more pleasing to me. So just add that there. So then we're going to add some Hessian. So I've got my 3D foam. Let's take this 3D foam. Scissors. Do you like how I'm describing even when I'm grabbing a pair of scissors for you? Because you really need to know when I'm grabbing a pair of scissors. So just adding that 3D foam. And it's great when you're doing YouTube videos because there's no rush. When you're on TV sometimes you know it's a little bit of a rush. So it's nice just to be popping back and doing another video. Just adding a little bit of that sisal nest. And then just add this foam over the top just to sandwich it in between, just so that it stays stuck. And also, if I tried to stick that to the card now, because of that sisal nest, it wouldn't stick. There wouldn't be enough stickiness because of that, the texture from that sisal nest. Just going to add a little bit more adhesive, just to make sure that stays nice and secure. Yes, let's not have it upside down, Tracy. Sometimes when you look through a camera, it looks completely different. And the good thing about that white, it really does make things pop. It gives it some life for me, I think. I love it. So let's just add some. You see, I don't want to add shading to this because I don't want to dull that down. So I don't want to add shading to that because I don't want to dull it down. I just like the fact that it's got some vibrancy to it. And just sitting here now thinking, let me show you the other image that would look good. I'm not using it this time, but the other image that would look good in these colours. So just hold that down and then bend. Just bend the butterfly a little bit, just to give a little bit more life. Just going to show you which image. This image here. See, I was going to use that and I didn't in the end, did I? But I might use it anyway. This image here, this flower image, would look good in those rusty tones. So I want to add a few little embellishments now. So I'm going to use this circular image from Elements of Nature, this one here, because I love the little embellishment pieces on it. We do actually need an acrylic block. Have I got one? No, I haven't. Have we got a border one? Oh, that one's fine. Got an A5, A6 one. So we've got this stamp set and I want a scrap of card again. I don't know how many scraps of card you use, but I use absolutely loads of scrap card. I just love the brown ink with these tones. Just think it makes a nice change, and it makes a nice change from anything else that I did over the weekend. This is definitely pine cone, isn't it? Yes. So just giving that a really good inking. And I'm going to cut out some embellishment pieces from this one. But I just want to show you it's stamped out, because you could extend this so that it's more, you know, it's a bigger design. And I'll show you what I mean. So there's the stamp design. I just think that's lovely. But if you wanted, just take this for another card design. I always ink it all in the end because I never know how much I'm going to use. You could then extend it a little bit further and create, so you could go further at the top as well. So let me show you. then take it again. Just make sure it connects. Just looks better if it connects with the other one. Looks like it all belongs. Look how that extends. Now let me just cut that out so you can see it better. Let me just cut that out so you can imagine it being a card. So this is just a scrap piece of card. I've got no idea what it measures. So let's take it, let's just trim that. And then trim this so that it is a little bit smaller. We'll trim the top. So what does this measure? So let's take it down to there. I'm just trimming it so that you could actually make a card out of this. It seems a shame now not to use it. But just so you can see, so this is 3.5 and that's 6. But look at that. I could now add a butterfly in there. I might not, oh, I'm going to have to stamp again now. I don't want to use them because I might just create another card with that. Because it just seems a shame, doesn't it, to not use it now. So we'll just stamp this again. This is what happens when you go off on a tangent and you haven't got a camera in front of you on TV where you're having to rush everything. So there, I'm now going to cut some of these out just to use as embellishments. So I'm going to use this one here. I just want 2 embellishments, I think. Just the smaller elements. And I may as well make these into 2 cards, hadn't I? So I'm just going to play around with my composition. Now I want one of the white circles just for the opposite end. Like so. I've now got hiccups, which is what Tracy gets when she's doing a video. So can you see I've now got some beautiful little embellished pieces, just so that you can see those. I'm going to stick those down because I actually like those. Just stick those down. I love building up a composition. To be honest, I just love faffing. I mean, let's be honest. I love the faffing bit. So what I'm going to do before I add any more, I'm just going to find, I know that on one of these I've got the sentiment butterfly. I'm just trying to remember which stamp set I've got it on. I've got it on that one. Don't want it too big, do I? So I've got butterfly on there, which is nice and small, or as part of a sentiment I've got butterfly on here. Might need it a little bit bigger, so let's use butterfly on here. I'm trying to remember to put the stamp sets back and I'm not doing it now. I've given up putting them back. So this sentiment, let's get another acrylic block, says markings and colours of the butterfly, but I just want the word butterfly, and I'm going to continue to stamp in that brown. So I just want the butterfly text. I've got sisal nest underneath. That's the thing with the sisal nest, I get it everywhere. So I'm just going to add that butterfly text. You don't need to press too hard with the text elements. They stamp beautifully without pressing too hard. I keep saying I'll put the stamps away just so that it saves you less time later. So I've got that butterfly and I'm going to cut that out. The scissors need unsticking. Just make that a little bit thinner. There we go. You see, I've been on my desk all of, I don't know, 2 minutes, and I'm already running out of space. So that's going to go there. And again, I've kept that pop of white just because it just brings everything to life. So just adding it under that sisal nest. Don't get your head in camera, Tracy. So just adding that under there. And what I like is you can still see the text, you can still see the rose stencil, and you can still see the colours in the background, but it's got some life to it. I do like that. So I'm just going to use my pencil now, just to go around the sentiment so that that does stand out a little bit more. So I am using my Inktense pencil just to add a little bit of shading around there. Just blend that out. And it's only subtle because the colours in the background are quite rich. So it's only subtle, but you can see it. In real life, you can see it. Let me just add a little bit more water. Don't think this brush is flowing as much as it normally does. That's better. That's much better. There we go. Just wipe that up. Just so that you can see what we've got. I'm going to add some white splatters, but even when I add some white splatters, just remember this is paint that's in here. So when it goes onto that oxide background, because that oxide background is reacted with moisture, the paint splatters will take on some of that colour and therefore will be more cream than white. There we go. Then I'm going to add this to my layers. So let's just add this. The time does go quick when you're doing videos. So just add that there. Like so. To your background. And just give it a few minutes, because that card, you know, because I force dried it, it will bend a little bit. So you just need to make sure that you've got enough sticky on your card. Just give it a couple of seconds just to grab hold. Then I'm going to add that to a white card, blank, because again, that white will make everything pop a little bit. So add that to that. Like so. Just makes it pop a little bit more. Like so. What you could do is, if you're sending it as a birthday gift. You could add some of these months in here, in the from the season stamp set, and add the months as well on your card. I'm going to add a little pen nib, I think. Just think a pen nib on the butterfly will be lovely. So I'm going to add that pen nib. So I'm just adding some adhesive to the edge of the pen nib, which takes a little bit of time to actually grab hold. Just add that pen nib. And I like how the pen nib sort of points to the midday, so I do like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a look in my collection. So first of all, I want a little dome. Just have a little dome. Just add that dome to the bee, and it will dry clear. Just faffing a little bit so you can see that it says butterfly, and it's got a dome over the top, just so that you can see that. Whoops. And then what I do at this stage is I always look at my metal embellishments and think, is there anything else I want to add? You know, is there anything that will change it up? For instance, you know, you could have added that with your butterfly over the top, but instead, what I might do is add this to here. Yes, that's what we'll do. So I always look at my metal embellishments, or this, I've got this one that my friend Clintine gave to me. Look at that, it's got a little clock. I might use that. See, this is what happens when you go off on a tangent. So we've got this card here, which I'm absolutely delighted with, just so that you can see that. Absolutely love that. And don't forget your inserts as well. Now we've got this one here. This is the card here. And I don't want to overcrowd this too much, but my friend Clintine gave me this. Now, obviously, you're not going to have the same embellishments, but what you could do is die cut a circle out 3 times, create your own little frame, and do it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure this piece of card again, just so that I can do a mat for it. So let's do a mat. So what have we got? So the piece of card is 3.5 inches by 6. So I'm going to create a black mat, which is 3 3/4 inches by 6 1/4, just to give me my mat for my card. So I'm going to actually this time add this mat to my card. So this was not even planned, because this was going to be just my embellishments that I was cutting out, and then I extended it, and it's now going to create a card in its own right. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that text stamp again, and I think I'm going to take oxide inks. I'm going to take Vintage Photo, got some Sisal Nest on my stamp. So I'm going to take Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink. I'm just going to add a little, oh yes, a little bit of text. I will lift it up so that you can see. I love this stamp, absolutely love this stamp. Let me just place that out the way. Just so that you can see that beautiful text in the vintage photo. Just looks lovely. Just going to get my fan brush. Which one did I use? Let's use this one. Take this fan brush. Just pick that up and just add some splatters of the vintage photo. Again, I will lift this up so that you can see this. There we go, that's enough. Just wipe all that up. Just give this a spritz. I always sort of clean my brushes. Well, I try to. That's because I've let that many brushes dry. Let's just so that you can see, we've got those little splatters just on there. Okay. Then what I'm going to do, you can tell this was a used frame. It was a frame on a frame. And this is what Clintine sent me. Now what you should really use is gel medium if you're using anything this heavy. But I'm just going to do this for video purposes. Use this strong PVA. So there's actually 2 frames here. So let's just use one. I'm going to use this one. So I've just prized them apart just because I can. And I'm going to use this frame because I've got 2. So I prized them apart and then I've got one for another project. So we've got that frame. As I said, you just cut 3 circles out the frames and just mount them together. Or if you've got some of your Tim Holtz embellishments, use that. So as you can see, we've got that. Just tilt that on one side so you can see that. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to grab that butterfly, because then we've done 2 cards with the butterfly. What did I say about putting the stamps away? Who am I kidding? So just get another piece of scrap card. Doesn't scrap card come in handy? Again, using my pine cone ink. Just making sure there's enough ink on there. Then I'm just going to press without my acrylic block because I just want the butterfly. There we go. Then we can cut that out. Then we can see if we want 2 butterflies or not. We'll just see. Time has gone so quickly when I'm doing the YouTube videos, and now it just vanishes. And these all work with the previous releases as well. There we go. And if you can see, I've left this quite open. I've not added lots of colour. So with this one, I'm going to add there. And I am going to add 2 of them. So I will add another one. And then I'm still going to do something different to my other card as well. This is why I love going off on a tangent. There we go. just stamp this again. So we're just stamping it so that we can add a layer to that butterfly. There we go. Sometimes I just leave it with one layer. Sometimes I quite like two, just because it gives me that extra little bit of depth. So that's why I'm doing it again. Oops. Do you know, the sun's shining. If I come and craft, a lot of the time it does sunshine. I should really be getting out in the garden. I've got another border that needs digging and refreshing. I need to find some energy levels to get that done. There we go. So I'm just going to add this one on the top. Just to give a little bit more depth to it, just so it shows a little bit more. Can you see I've kept it quite monochromatic, which I quite like. Quite like how it's just monochromatic. Just let me show you that, just so you can see that. I do like how that looks just in the monochromatic. It's just lovely. And I like how you can just see that number just below. Just think that's lovely, really nice. Right, what I'm going to do now, just bring this card in a minute, because I think I just want to add a little bit of orange to the butterfly. So I'm going to take this cracked campfire. Let's move this card. It's like I'm jumping from one card to the other. Just move this out the way. Just spritz that bit there. And I did have a fine paintbrush, but you can bet your bottom dollar that I can't find it while I'm looking in here. Is that one fine? Crikey, look how fine this paintbrush is. So just pick up a little bit of this orange, and I think I'm just going to add a little bit of orange just to this one. Just a little bit. Just give it a little bit of depth. When I was looking at it, I like the fact that we've got this orange here, but I want some proper orange at the top. Just so it echoes that orange in the background. And this is how I create. I always go back and look at a project, because it always looks different when you go back and look at it. And because I worked on that other card, I could see that it needed that bit of orange. So I'm just using that crackling campfire just to add a little bit of orange. This white here is the paint from the Posca pen. So just adding a little bit more depth just to this area here. Because I will allow this to dry naturally. Just so it's got a little bit more. Let me bring that up. Just looks a little bit better with that orange butterfly. I quite like the fact that it's a little bit richer. And I can see, looking through the camera, I just need a little bit of richness there and here. That's it. And I will let that dry naturally. Just so that looks better. Quite happy with that now. So just wipe that up. And what I'm going to do to this one is I'm just going to add a little bit of black washi. And you know what I'm like now, by now, with this washi. you know that I like to add little bits and tear it. And I like a couple of torn pieces, and it doesn't matter if it's little tiny pieces, it just looks a little bit more random. Random appeals to me. So just to bring that balance, I've got some here, and just to bring a little bit of balance here. Just bring a little bit of balance. And I'm always looking, I always have a look at my embellishments just to see if there's anything else that I want to add. And I'm going to add a little bulldog clip just at the top here, which I'm going to add some gold to. So I've got this Pebeo gold wax, and I'm just going to add some gold wax just to this bulldog clip, just so it looks a little bit more in keeping with my project. And just to echo that gold, we will bring a little bit of gold onto this frame. Just a little bit. Just so it looks like I've thought about the whole project. Sometimes I like doing more pared down projects. So what we need to do now is create a card blank. So the card blank needs to be 4 inches by 6.5. It always looks better when you place things on a card blank. And another hour has passed by. So just add that to a card blank. And I like the fact that we've managed 2 cards. And this time, have I got a black Posca pen? Let's add some black splatters. Let's get the paint rolling. I don't want the black, that's better. That's better. I don't want too many of them, I just want a few. Just wipe that paint up, because black gets absolutely everywhere. Let's get some scrap paper, just so that we can place these 2 cards on the white card. I'm going to add this bulldog clip. Just here. You go silent when you think you're concentrating. And then I want the word butterfly again. So let's move that out of the way and find that butterfly text. Just grab that butterfly text once again. Where's my brown ink pad gone? There we go. I've got splatters everywhere. Again, don't press too hard. You don't need to press too hard with your sentiment. I always place my sentiments back when I've used them, because I always worry that the sentiments are going to get lost, so I always put them in my sleeves. Let's just cut that butterfly out. A little bit smaller. There we go. Let's bring these cards in so we can actually see them. You've got two different cards there. And just have a look at your composition in your camera and see where you want your project, your sentiment. So mine is going there. And I do just want to add a little bit of shading to that. Now, it's important that you remember that when you're adding the shading, you really need your card to be dry. You don't need it to be like me where you're working on something that's wet. It's far easier when it's dry. So just holding that down. Just a little bit of glue there. So just holding that because it's just a little bit easier for me. Whoops, sorry about that, just nudge the camera. Turn the card round. And it's great because that frame isn't too heavy either. But then I've used it. Right. And that is your two cards finished. I'm just going to hold them up so you can look at each one. This is the first one that's more grungy. And you can see that ink is drying now and gives a bit more richness. And I love those stripes of white because they really do stand out. Then we've got the card that we made from the waste. That was just a little bit of waste left over, just so that you can see that. There is a little bit of gold on that frame, just so that it coordinated. And that is our two cards finished. I hope you'll give them a go. I hope you feel inspired just to play along. And I'd just like to say thank you very much for all your support and all your kind words of support. So have a lovely week, everybody. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.